Now, I suppose you could say that I have a dog in the fight on this next subject, but I got an email from Mark Scholes. I can't remember, Mark, have we met in person ever before?
We have a couple times over at Northwest Armory and over at Shiloh Inn. At
the gun store. So, I mean, I always look forward to meeting liberals at the gun store, but I've never actually run into a liberal in the gun store. But, you know, there you go. I guess I could say that I have a dog in the fight because I like automobiles. Now, I'm not a collector. I've got one automobile. Tina has one. We've owned a couple at various times. But you are a real estate guy who specializes in people who are car enthusiasts. Tell me about that. And then would you mind describing for my audience the new crazy rules and regulations that are being put in place that work against creating new houses in this region?
Absolutely, Lars. And just like you did, my two dogs in the fight. First of all, I am a real estate agent, so I absolutely have an interest in new home development. My second dog in this fight is my specialty in real estate for 15 years has been homes for car enthusiasts. 70% of my clients like a big garage, and they're concerned about parking. I mean, who doesn't want a larger garage?
Of course, because then you can fill it up. I'm constantly trying to empty my garage. I never seem to quite get to it. I'll make some progress, and then 2 weeks later it's full again. Not with cars, but with other stuff. So what happens? What kind of rules are they proposing, both at the state level and at the local level, to say we're not going to let you have homes that are friendly or accommodating of people who are car enthusiasts?
So what these are is these are the biggest change to Oregon land use planning through administrative rules since 1973, almost 50 years. This is a set of administrative rules that are being evaluated, and there's a hearing next week on March 31st to strengthen statewide administrative rules. They will increase housing density requirements and remove parking requirements from new development. And this is across the 8 metropolitan areas, any city larger than 50,000 people. Portland, Salem-Keizer, Bend, Eugene, Corvallis, Grants Pass, Albany, and Medford.
All of those. And by the way, Mark, if you go back maybe 50, 60 years, I remember that the rules were such, they'd say you can't build a house unless you can show us you have enough off-street parking. These days, cities and counties in the state are going exactly the other direction, saying we'd rather you build houses with no parking, even though it creates all kinds of problems.
Precisely that. From a functional standpoint, in the city of Portland, new development, new infill has all but eliminated two-car garages.
So you can't have a two-car garage?
They would rather have housing, especially around housing at higher density for a number of reasons. But that's how the city of Portland is meeting the demands of what they believe to be the population and the city council and the oversight. What this set of administrative rules actually does is at the state level, it is creating a new level of administrative rules that goes in and replaces it it takes over the local control of those building standards and says, those don't apply, you now have to follow these statewide rules. And that's the struggle, is it's the state coming in and saying, we are now going to put in our one-size-fits-all model across any city that has 50,000 or more people.
So that means they're going to apply Portland-style rules to a lot of other cities that are not Portland. And I think people have the same objection to Seattle-style rules being imposed on cities that are not Seattle. They're also talking about rules that don't just involve, you pointed out, that they don't just involve the houses, they involve the streets and everything else, which means they want more room for bike paths and all that. But you point out that you don't know of any families who exclusively ride bikes. I mean, I have a bicycle, I ride it. Tina has a bicycle, she rides it. But to find a family, a real family, mom, dad, couple of kids, that says, oh no, we always get around exclusively on bicycles, we don't even own a car. Those families, for the most part, don't exist, right?
Correct. And I, like you, I am not against bicycles or electric vehicles. I've got a bicycle I almost sometimes ride in the garage. And I would encourage and embrace electric vehicles. I'm also aware of the environment. But my concern with this is that these proposed rules hurt the development of new housing. They take away local control from the cities, and they create density targets without any validation of those targets as being effective in what they're using this is in the pursuit of climate change. The fact is, we are already in a housing supply crisis. These rules, as proposed, will only make it worse.
And by the way, Mark, one other issue you haven't brought up, but I want to bring it up for people. When you say administrative rules, these aren't rules that are adopted by your state representatives where you get some input and you can say, if you vote for that, I'm going to vote for somebody else in the next election. These are being adopted by bureaucrats within the state government who are not answerable directly to the people, and they don't have to give a damn what the people think, do they?
You nailed it, Lars. That is right on target. And that underneath all this, that's my core issue. These are administrative rules process being used for these changes. In 2019, we had bipartisan support and approval for what was called middle housing density legislation. That increased density on new development. This was bipartisan legislative approve of House Bills 2001, 2003. So we had approval back in 2019, just 3 years ago. Then in March of 2020, Governor Brown issued an executive order directing state agencies to reduce climate pollution. As a response, this entity now, it's called the Oregon Land Conservation and Development Commission, the LCDC. They are updating Oregon's transportation planning rules and related administrative rules. That's the core at this. Once these rules are updated and implemented, they no longer go back to the legislature for approval, and don't even think that the voters are going to get a voice until the next election. The voters have no voice in this process, and the legislature is not involved.
Yeah, and in fact, it sounds like they're reversing some of what was put into law. So this is actually unelected people taking away laws that were put there by the elected representatives of the people, right?
I think that's a fair assessment, absolutely.
This is crazy. Mark, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming in because I want people to understand this. These are things that are happening right now. And I know I'll get phone calls 2 years or 5 years from now from people saying, hey, who made this a rule? And I say, well, it's a bureaucrat. You don't know his or her name. You never voted for them. You can't vote them out of office. They effectively don't exist to you. They can't be fired. They can't be disciplined. Their mind can't be changed by voters. They're unanswerable to you. And that is a terrible way to run a representative form of government, which is exactly what we have in this country.